Good morning and welcome to Elville and Associates and another installment of the Elville webinar series. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Today's topic is one we've offered many times over the years, ABLE accounts, a financial tool to promote health, independence, and financial stability. And your presenter is Maryland ABLE's Outreach and Communications Manager, Kelly Nelson. Hi there, Kelly. Welcome. It's great to have you back. And I'm Jeff Stauffer. I'm the Community Relations Director at the firm, and I'll be your moderator today. And we have several new attendees on our webinar series today, so welcome everyone. A few general housekeeping items. We always encourage your general questions, so please note them in the questions panel on your screen, and we'll pause periodically throughout to address them. If you have very specific questions about your individual or family situation, Kelly is always very giving of her time, and she'll be happy to talk with you about them online. And you received the presentation slides yesterday by email from me to take notes if you wish. If you didn't get this for one reason or another, it's in the section marked handouts on your screen to download at this time. And for our professionals on today's presentation, welcome to you. As always, most professionals can receive 1.5 continuing education hours for attending. So if I don't have your ID number or an accreditation you'd like me to add to a certificate or provide to the CFP Board of Standards, please send that to me and I'll take care of it this afternoon. And everyone will also receive a post-webinar feedback email right after the presentation. Please take a moment or two to fill out this important information for us. And we always read and appreciate every comment that you have to share with us. And here at the firm, Elville and Associates, we work every day with clients and families with ideals of client education, collaboration, and compassion in mind. And we're always available for free consultations to discuss your planning needs and want to be a resource to you to help create a path forward for your planning. So please contact me anytime with any questions. With that, I'd like to introduce Kelly Nelson, a great friend to the firm and one of my favorite people I've ever met here at my job at Elville and Associates. We've presented many times together, and it's always a pleasure. So Kelly is the Outreach and Communications Manager with Maryland ABLE. Kelly has worked in the field of disabilities for more than 30 years. She has served in many roles supporting people with disabilities and their families through advocacy, education, and connecting them to vital resources within their community. As a parent of a child with disabilities, Kelly is passionate about helping her daughter to become a confident self-advocate as she pursues her goals of working and living independently in the community. As the Outreach and Communications Manager for Maryland ABLE, she is delighted to have the opportunity to connect with many people with disabilities, their families, and the staff that support them as she travels throughout Maryland, educating people about the benefits of having an ABLE account. And through her outreach endeavors, Kelly is excited to see how her work with the Maryland ABLE program is helping to promote personal choice, independence, and economic stability for people with disabilities. A worthwhile endeavor, Kelly. Thank you for being here today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So appreciate this wonderful opportunity to be invited back on this wonderful webinar series that's sponsored by Elville and Associates. I want to thank you, Jeff, and all our wonderful partners over there at Elville. Again, my name is Kelly Nelson. I'm the Outreach and Communications Manager for the Maryland ABLE program. I have been really looking forward to this presentation all week. It's definitely one of the highlights, being able to connect with families, people with disabilities, and others that support them. So thank you for joining us today. My plan for the next hour is to just provide you with an overview of the ABLE Act legislation itself that makes ABLE accounts possible. We're going to talk about some of the regulations like eligibility for the account enrollment, and the features of account management and the benefits. And then we're going to delve down into specifically features and benefits of having a Maryland ABLE account. So that's my plan. I do like to share, and I know Jeff has already mentioned it in the introduction, but I'm also a parent of a 20-year-old young lady who has had an ABLE account for the last 6 years. So I have this practical life experience with helping my daughter to be able to manage that ABLE account, and it's given myself and my husband this really wonderful opportunity to see how it has helped her to grow in her self-confidence and her independence, as well as increasing her financial literacy skills, which is a really challenging skill to teach to someone that has an intellectual disability, because it's such an abstract concept. So it's also given her father and I a way to begin to plan and prepare for the future. So I just want to let you know, so that sometimes I may be sprinkling in a couple examples along the way to let you know how this is played out in a very practical way. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. What is an ABLE account? Well, basically, an ABLE account is a way for a person with a disability and their families to be able to save money without jeopardizing those critical federal and means-tested benefits, things such as SSI and Medicaid and various waiver services. So this is a really important legislation that passed, because it was the answer to a problem that existed for decades. For folks that were receiving SSI benefits, they had this monthly cash benefit that was also giving them the opportunity to qualify for Medicaid health insurance, which also opened them up for some other important waivers. But there was a challenge, and that was that they could never have more than $2,000 in assets in their name, or they would jeopardize all of those benefits. So what we were seeing was people spending down money just to keep their assets under $2,000 so that they could maintain these benefits. And then, a few months later, they would have a major expense like a crown or other dental work or whatever, and they wouldn't have the money because they had spent it down. So thanks to the advocacy efforts of lots of people over about a 10-year span, it was people with disabilities, their family members, advocacy groups, and under the leadership of one particular parent named Stephen Beck Jr., we were able to see this come into fruition. And in 2014, President Obama signed into law the Stephen A. Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, or we call it the ABLE Act. That's the acronym for ABLE. And when this happened, it gave states across the country the opportunity to open ABLE programs and make ABLE accounts available to folks so that they could save beyond that asset limit, and they would actually be able to save up to $100,000 in an ABLE account and still maintain all of their benefits. So this was a very groundbreaking legislation. And when this happened, it didn't federally mandate that states do it, and it didn't provide any funding. So it did take a little time to get ABLE accounts open and up and running across the country. Today, we have 47 ABLE programs nationwide, and Maryland ABLE is one of those programs. Our regulations for ABLE accounts are found within the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. Some of you may be familiar with the Section 529 of the IRS code, and that is the college savings plan. So you'll see that ABLE accounts have some similar benefits because we're sisters, if you will, within that code. So all ABLE programs are going to be following the same regulations that I'm going to talk about for the first part of my presentation. Here in Maryland, Governor Hogan signed the Maryland ABLE Act in 2016, and we launched our program in 2017. On Thanksgiving Day this year, we celebrated our 7th year anniversary, and I'm happy to say that we currently have over 7,000 Maryland ABLE account holders who together have been able to save $101.5 million in assets over the last 7 years. This is quite impressive for a group of people who were once told they could never have more than $2,000 in assets. The Maryland ABLE program is operated under the Maryland State Treasurer's Office, and our office is located in Baltimore, Maryland. So that's a little bit about Maryland ABLE. So let's take a look at some important reasons that people find ABLE accounts beneficial. The first one is the one I already mentioned, and that's increasing those saving limits before SSI cash benefits are impacted. So outside of an ABLE account, a person receiving SSI can have up to $2,000 in assets in a regular checking or savings account or an investment account. It has to stay below that $2,000. With an ABLE account, a person can have up to $100,000 and still maintain those benefits. The other thing is it's not just about maintaining Social Security, but it also protects those other critical benefits such as Medicaid, the health insurance, and any other types of waivers, Medicaid waivers, such as community support waivers or food, energy, or housing assistance. All of those assets, all of those waivers are protected as well with money within an ABLE account. Another big benefit is that within an ABLE account, the person pays no federal or state taxes on the earnings, not when it's in the ABLE account and not when it is withdrawn, as long as that money is being spent on qualified disability expenses, which is anything that's going to support the account holder in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. And we'll talk a bit more about QDEs specifically in just a few more slides. Another benefit is that many of the programs across the nation do have another tax benefit, which is an income subtraction on their state taxes. Here in Maryland, we have an income subtraction for contributions made to an ABLE account up to $2,500 per person. So if parents are married and filing joint returns, they can claim an income subtraction up to $5,000 on their Maryland state taxes. Another benefit of ABLE accounts is that it's very easy online enrollment. A lot of people with disabilities and their families have been through a lot with having to do these massive applications to apply for services. But with an ABLE account, you can set it up online in about 15 to 20 minutes. And once the account is established, they have access to their account 24/7 through online account management. This makes it really easy to access funds. So that is another important feature of the ABLE account. Because it's an online account, they can withdraw money for their qualified disability expenses whenever it is needed. They have the power to do that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the eligibility and who can manage the ABLE account, and then we're going to pause to see if we have any questions. So in order for a person to qualify for an ABLE account, they must meet two criteria. The first is that they had to have a disability that was diagnosed before the age of 26 or was present before the age of 26. Now you'll notice here on my slide, there's a little asterisk there. This is the current regulation. However, 2 years ago, the Able Age Adjustment Act was passed, and this is going to raise the age of onset for ABLE account eligibility to age 46, but this will not happen until January 1st of 2026. So when this does happen, it's going to really have a great impact on folks that did not qualify. These are usually folks with later onset diagnoses such as MS, Lou Gehrig's disease. Sometimes mental health diagnoses aren't present before age 26. We also have a lot of veterans that are going to benefit from that. So we look forward to being able to make this available to more people beginning in 2026. The second criteria is that the person has to have a disability that meets the Social Security Administration's definition of a disability. And this is usually a type of disability that is going to be present with a person throughout their lifetime, and that it's a disability that has impacted them in their lives, in their ability to be able to either live or work or maintain permanent employment over time. So these are more significant disabilities. They can range from, deafness, blindness, cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, autism. I mean, there's a vast list of qualifying disabilities, but again, something that will be present with the person throughout their lifetime. A person can show their eligibility in one of two ways. During the enrollment process, it'll ask them if they're currently receiving SSI or SSDI, and if they are, then we know that they've been approved for Social Security, so they're automatically eligible for an ABLE account. There may be some folks on the webinar today that are saying, well, that's great, but my family member is not currently receiving SSI benefits or SSDI. Are they eligible? They absolutely are. If they have a disability that occurred before their 26th birthday, and all they would need to do is go to our website. There's a section of forms where you'll find all the forms that I'm going to talk about today on this website. They can download it. It's called a Physician's Disability Certification Form. And you would just take that to the physician and have them check off the disability code and sign it, and you would maintain it in your files. You wouldn't have to submit it during the enrollment process. It would just be something that you would want to hold on to in case you were asked to produce documentation of eligibility. Okay, who's ever opening that ABLE account is going to self-certify at that time of enrollment the type of disability. All right, let's also take a look at who owns the ABLE account and who manages it. It is important to know that it is always the person with the disability that is both the owner of the ABLE account and the beneficiary. This can be different with other different types of accounts, like a 529 account perhaps. Maybe the parent owns the account, but the child is the beneficiary. No matter the age of the person with a disability, even an infant born with Down syndrome, if their parents open an ABLE account, they will be the owner. And the parents will be what we call in the ABLE space the authorized legal representative. And that's basically the person that is going to help to manage that ABLE account on behalf of a minor or on behalf of an adult with a disability who needs that help to help them manage the account. And we'll talk about that a little bit more too. So let's just say you open an ABLE account as a parent for your child who's under the age of 18, but when they turn 18, they may be able to manage their own ABLE account. If that's the case, you can be removed, you remove yourself as the authorized legal representative, and that person can manage it from there on out. We do find that I would say probably 60% of our 7,000 account holders do have an authorized legal representative, even after the age of 18. They participate in managing the account, but they also like having someone that can help assist with it. You can have one ABLE account per person. So this is something that comes up a lot because maybe mom and dad are no longer together and they want to open an ABLE account. Both of them want to open an ABLE account for their family member, but that is not possible because it is limited to just one ABLE account per person. One final thing I want to say about the authorized legal representative, and then we'll stop for some questions, is to let you know that this is an updated regulation. When ABLE accounts were first enacted in our regulations, they said that a person could serve as an authorized legal representative if they had a power of attorney or guardianship or conservatorship. That has been expanded now to include certainly, of course, anyone with a power of attorney, conservatorship or guardianship, or a spouse of the beneficiary, a parent, a sibling, a grandparent, or someone serving as representative payee for that person. So this has expanded that hierarchy of who can serve as ALR. So Jeff, we've covered a lot of information already. Let's just take a check-in here and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. We do have one question thus far, and it is, what happens with the money if the person who has a disability passes away?
Okay, that's a really great question. So it's a complex question, so bear with me when I share with you the answer. The first thing I want you to know is that money within the ABLE account, when the person passes, can be used to pay for any final expenses, funeral expenses, any outstanding medical expenses. Once that account has, been used to satisfy all of those expenses, it can be closed and liquidated, and the assets in the ABLE account can go to the person that was appointed to be the recipient of the person's estate. Okay, so the ABLE account can pass into their estate and be distributed however it is indicated. Now, if they don't have a will, it's going to follow that those rules of probate. So they'll look for a surviving spouse, a parent, or a sibling, kind of in that order. When that person, whoever that final person is that is the recipient of those ABLE funds, they will be receiving the money. They will have to pay taxes on the earnings portion of that account, because while the money was in the ABLE account for the person with a disability, it was a tax-free savings and investment account. So they will have to pay taxes on that, but they can have that money. That is part one of the answer to that question. The second is, a lot of people ask this because of Medicaid recapture. So here in Maryland, we have a letter saying that Maryland Medicaid will not seek recapture of funds within the ABLE account. But we need to keep in mind that when a person is receiving waivers, those waivers are funded from two different sources, federal funds and state funds. So the state of Maryland said they will not seek recapture unless federally mandated to do so. The federal government never said they wouldn't recapture it. They reserved the right to do it. But it is going to be for someone over the age of 55 who has been receiving long-term care. So those are the folks that they would seek recapture of ABLE funds. I hope that answers the questions. I know it's a very complex one.
Thanks, Kelly. It makes great sense. Along those same lines, one more question just popped up. Sure. What happens if the authorized representative passes away?
Excellent question. Okay, so if the ALR passes, the ABLE account beneficiary or another family member could call our customer support team and let them know about the passing of the ALR, and they would have an opportunity then to designate a new ALR. Again, it could be anyone in that hierarchy that we talked about, someone with a POA, guardianship, conservatorship, a parent, another parent, a sibling, a grandparent, any family member that they choose, or someone serving as rep payee. And it's just a matter of getting a form off the website to make that designation change.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Great questions, guys. Please keep sharing them, because chances are if you're thinking it, so is someone else. I appreciate these great questions. Let's take a look at some things we need to know about contributions to an ABLE account. The first is, here in Maryland, when you're opening an account, you'll need to fund the ABLE account with an initial deposit of $25. This is not a fee, it's the person's money that's being deposited into the account to start and fund the account. After that point, whoever is managing that account can decide when they want to contribute again. It could be a monthly contribution, they could do it quarterly, they could do it once a year. It's totally up to them, however they want to do it, as long as those next contributions are a minimum of $5. The important number I want you guys to keep in mind, and this has very important implications regarding families who are looking to ABLE as a way to plan for the future. Every year we have a standard annual contribution limit. This year it's $18,000. Every time the IRS changes the gift tax exclusion law, this will impact our standard annual contribution limit. When I first started with the ABLE program, it was $14,000 a year. And it was steady for a couple of years, and then we saw an annual increase over the last several years. January 1 of 2025, this will increase to $19,000, meaning that particular year in 2025, a person can contribute up to $18,000 per calendar year. The account balance can continue to grow beyond that $18,000, but the amount of contributions will be limited to 18. So this is a place where I like to do a little pause and talk about ABLE accounts as a future needs planning tool. Certainly, it is a great way to get started for families who want to begin saving or investing for their family member. But we need to think about down the road, when a family member passes away and they want to be able to leave an inheritance to their son or daughter, chances are it's going to be higher than $18,000, or next year $19,000, right? Our estates will most likely go beyond that. This is where we see a need for multiple planning tools, and by that I mean a special needs trust, because able accounts and special needs trust are the only two methods for a person to be able to save or invest money in an account that is an asset protection account that will not impact their benefits. So that's why we always talk about special needs trust and able accounts as being collaborative planning tools. And certainly, if you participate in any of the other webinars here that they offer through Elville and Associates, you'll know there's plenty of opportunities to learn about special needs trust and the various types of trust there are. And that would be a great place to seek out more information. And I know that the team over there at Elville would be happy to answer any questions about that. So just want to mention that. Able accounts and special needs trust are collaborative planning tools. They're not in competition with one or the other. They basically have different things that are helpful at different stages. For example, with an able account, you can set that up in about 15 or 20 minutes online. When you sit down to do your special needs trust, I'm sure Jeff can confirm that it will take a much more investment of time. You're going to be working with professionals that will help you develop a very specialized document that is going to meet the needs of your family, and that could take a couple of weeks, a couple of months, right? So there's a difference in time. Another big difference between special needs trust and able accounts is that when money is in a special needs trust, the person with a disability does not have direct access to those funds, but rather it goes through a trustee. With an able account, the person with the disability can have access to their funds through the able prepaid card or managing their own able account. So those are just some different things. I believe another main difference is the ability to pay rent or mortgage through the able account, which looks a little differently with a special needs trust. There's definitely special regulations about what can be done regarding rent or mortgage with a special needs trust. So those are just some of the differences. Now that I've gone on and on about the $18,000 a year, I'm going to share with you that there is an additional way for some people to be able to contribute above and beyond that standard annual contribution limit, and that is through the Able to Work Act. And this is something that makes it possible for an able account owner who's working, who is not contributing to a retirement plan, or their employer is not contributing on their behalf. They're eligible to be able to make additional contributions above the 18 or the standard annual contribution. They could, this year in 2024, contribute up to an additional $14,580. This amount does change every year because it is actually equal to the federal poverty level wage of a one-person household. So for example, if a person with a disability is working part-time, they're making $5,000 a year, they would be able to contribute up to $5,000, right? If they get a job and full-time in the future and they get a pay increase and they're making $25,000 a year, they would still be capped at being able to put in that additional $14,580 for 2024. So that is something, if you have a family member that is working or is going to be working, provides an additional way. I like to think of contributions in two different buckets, if you will. The bucket for the standard annual contribution for $18,000 this year, anyone can contribute to that bucket. You can fill that from contributions with family members or friends, but that able to work bucket is just for contributions from the account beneficiary. Okay. All righty, so another big number we want to keep in mind, and that is the $100,000 able account balance. Again, money within that able account cannot be counted as a resource by Social Security or Medicaid or against those waivers. Once the account balance reaches $100,000, if you were to go beyond that, Social Security will be notified because they know everybody's able account balance. It's part of our regulations. We have to report that at the end of every month. So they would know that the account had gone beyond the $100,000, and they would, at that point, push a pause button on the SSI monthly cash benefit. You would not be disenrolled. It would be a pause button. Medicaid and all of those waivers would remain in place. They would stop receiving the monthly SSI cash benefit until such a time the ABLE account fell below the $100,000 balance. And at that time, they could automatically reactivate those monthly cash benefits. This is very different from trying to save money outside of an ABLE account or a special needs trust. Again, if you have more than $2,000 in a regular checking, savings, or investment account, when you go beyond the $2,000 limit, Social Security will notify you that you're over-resourced, give you a little bit of time to spend down that balance and have it fall below the $2,000. But if that is not tended to and taken care of within a specific amount of time, the person will become disenrolled from Social Security and would have to start the application process all over again. And again, as a parent who's been through this process, it took my daughter 2 years before her SSI was approved. So I definitely don't ever want to go through that process again, and I'm grateful that she has an ABLE account to be able to save and invest in, and so I don't ever have to worry about her rep payee account getting anywhere close to that $2,000 balance, and it just is a great peace of mind. All righty, so let's look at the $500,000 account balance. This is the amount of money that you can have in an ABLE account. Once it reaches that balance, we would no longer be able to accept contributions to the ABLE account. The balance could continue to grow because of earnings, but we couldn't accept contributions once it reaches $500,000. This is actually tied to the regulations for a 529 account. Here in Maryland, it was determined that the cost of a college education for a child born today, when they're of college age, would be $500,000. So that's why they're capped at the 500,000 mark, and we are as well. So again, they can have, beyond 500,000, they just cannot make contributions beyond that. And backing up to that $100,000 account balance, that's when SSI cash benefits would go into a state of suspension, but all other benefits would remain. All right. And if a person is receiving SSDI, they don't have to worry about the $100,000 account balance because they don't have an asset limit. So again, Jeff, we've covered a lot here just talking about these regulations regarding contributions. Let's do a check-in.
Thanks, Kelly. Good idea. Got a few questions here. First is, can the person with disability, the owner of the ABLE account, claim ABLE account contributions on a tax return?
Yes.
Okay.
So if they're working, it will help to, decrease the amount of taxes they have and have more of their earnings in their pocket.
Okay. Next, Maryland has recently made impactful changes to how waivers are managed in Maryland. Are there plans to make changes to how ABLE accounts are managed by a parent, and also if these will be looked at as assets for waivers?
Okay, so I am aware that the self-directed support waivers that were the regulations or the information that went out from DDA initially had said that money within an ABLE account and within the special needs trust or accountable resources, and that it would impact their ability to have the self-directed support waiver pay for things in their budget. And this is not an accurate statement. Both special needs trust and ABLE accounts are asset protections, and hopefully you have received updated information from DDA indicating that that will not impact their budget. Money within an ABLE account or special needs trust will not. So that thankfully was resolved very quickly. I'm not sure how that came to be in the first place, but as soon as we were made aware of it, and a lot of folks went to action on that right away, making sure that people had accurate information. Now, the second part of the question about a parent as the authorized legal representative, I'm not sure I understand the question about the assets. So money that that an AL, if I understand this correctly, money that an ALR has in their own name, not the ABLE account, but that a parent has, does that impact? I don't believe, I'm not sure I understand. So ABLE account
Okay.
money, because it belongs to the owner, is not going to be related to how much money the parent has. I need a little help with that clarification.
All right. So, sir, if you want to provide any brief general thoughts about that, we can maybe delve further into that. Kelly, mentions the benefits of an ABLE account and the special needs trust. Anything else you want to mention about that? We have somebody that's inquired about that.
You know, I can tell you that talking with thousands of families across the state of Maryland over the last almost 7 years now, I find that many parents eventually wind up with both. Again, a special needs trust is that tool that you'll need to be able to leave larger assets like your estate. An ABLE account is a great way to get started in that planning process for the future, right? There's tax advantages of you being able to make contributions to an ABLE account. You're getting an income subtraction on your Maryland state taxes while you're investing or saving money for your child's future. So I think an ABLE account is that low-lying fruit, if you will. It's something that you can set up quickly. So I think it's a great way for people to get started. And it also, again, depending upon your family member, if they want to be able to participate in if they're able to participate in managing their money, an ABLE account is the way to go because they have access to their funds, whereas a special needs trust, everything is going to pass through the trustee. So ABLE accounts provide increased independence for a person with a disability. But again, both of them very valuable tools and most likely both needed.
Agreed, Kelly. And we see that all the time here. Our attorneys talk with clients that are setting up special needs trusts, supplemental needs trusts, and are interested in ABLE or need to learn about ABLE and vice versa. So well said. A couple more. What day of the month is Social Security notified of ABLE account balances? Is it the end of each month?
I would have to verify that through our program disclosure book, but I believe it is the end of the month. Yes.
Okay. Is the federal Medicaid recapture a percentage or a calculated amount? From which federal agency would the ALR get a letter informing the amount of recapture?
I am not certain about that because I don't work for Medicaid. I don't know what their formula is. And I guess they would be notified upon the passing how that would be. But again, remember, it would be only for people over the age of 55 that were receiving long-term care. And we haven't had a lot of experience with this happening. So we've had, unfortunately, many ABLE account holders pass away, but we have not had experience with seeing how this really plays out. Which
Okay.
I guess is a good thing.
Let's do one more for now, if that's all right. Could the new federal administration not mandate that Maryland require the clawback provision again in the future?
Well, this sounds like a question that I couldn't answer because I'm an attorney, but I believe that with the law being here in the law in Maryland, they wouldn't be able to change that. But I could not really say for certain if they would be able to change the clawback. I know not all states have it. Maryland is one of the programs that does have that clawback provision. And I couldn't say for certain because I'm not an attorney. I hope not, but.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Thanks very much, Kelly.
All right. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of these extra features that I think are helpful to families. The ABLE Financial Planning Act makes it possible for families who opened a college savings account when their child was very young, or maybe when they were born, mom or dad or grandparents opened this college savings, and as the child has gotten older and progressing through school, they may decide, college will not be their pathway. They're going to be doing something else, right? So this is a great opportunity to be able to roll over funds from a 529 college savings account into an ABLE account. There's no fee to do that as long as that 529 is in the same beneficiary as an ABLE account or a family member of the beneficiary. So they can roll over money that is up to the standard annual contribution limit. So this year, people could roll over $18,000, less, of course, any other contributions you've already put into an ABLE account. And let's just say Grandma opened this college savings plan, has $20,000 in it, and her grandson is not going to be pursuing college. She could roll over $18,000 this year. If they just opened the ABLE account, that's what they were putting in, she would be able to roll over the $2,000 next year. So you'd have to ladle out those contributions. Important to know that the ABLE Financial Planning Act is scheduled to sunset December 31st, 2025. I will let you know that Maryland ABLE, as well as ABLE programs nationwide, have been advocating for the last couple of years to see that this ABLE Act, Financial Planning Act, would be either reset or made permanent. We were in DC 2 months ago at a roundtable with Senator Schmidt, and he is very much in support of making this a permanent legislation. It does still need, it passed on the Senate side. This bill would have to pass on the House side. I don't know that it's going to happen this year because we've had a big year, right? We've had an election, we're going to be having a change in administration. So it may take a little bit longer, but we are hopeful because we typically get bipartisan support when it comes to ABLE accounts because of the nature of the beneficiary and how it really impacts their life. So we are hopeful, but I do want to say, if you are on the webinar now and you do want to roll over funds, don't wait. Because if it doesn't be made permanent, it will sunset next December 31st, okay? So just something to think about there. All right, when a person has an ABLE account, they have choices of how they either want to save money or invest their money in the ABLE account. The cash option is an FDIC insured interest-bearing banking product, very similar to a savings account. I believe it's currently receiving 4.5% interest right now. So that's what's going on with that. That is a very popular option for many of our account holders. They like the idea of putting money into their ABLE account, money they transfer over from their Social Security SSI money. They like to put it in the ABLE account as a protected asset, but they also like knowing that it's going to be there when they need it to pay for their expenses, right? So very popular. The other one is the investment option, where we have 4 different investment portfolio choices. These are all portfolios managed by Vanguard, and we tried to make something available for different investment strategies for where they are, whether they want long-term or short-term, and different risk levels. So our fixed income is 100% in bonds. So that's our probably the most conservative option we have. And then we have a conservative option that is 20% in stocks and 80% in bonds. That is probably our second most popular choice for folks. We have a moderate, which is a 50-50 split between stocks and bonds, and the aggressive option is 84% in the market and 16% in bonds. The good news is they don't have to just pick one. When you have money in an ABLE account, every time you make a contribution to that ABLE account, the ALR gets to direct where that contribution is going to go. So you're putting in $200 this month and you want to put it in your cash option. Next month, you know, you've got all this maybe gifts that the person received for the holidays. Maybe you want to put some of those funds into one of the investment options. It's completely up to you how you manage that account, and you can choose all 5 of them if you wanted to. You can also change your investment strategy up to 2 times per calendar year. Okay. All right, with an ABLE account, there is a fee to maintain that account. It's an annual maintenance fee of $35 per year. Folks who opened an ABLE account yesterday will not be paying $35 because it is prorated, so they'll probably be paying like maybe $3 or $4 for the remainder of 2024. The fee is assessed quarterly at $8.25. And that comes out directly from the ABLE account itself. And that is how the account fees structure works. Here in Maryland, we have some of the lowest fees of all the ABLE programs across the country. Some of them are less or more because, for example, the state of Florida has no account maintenance fees because the state of Florida pays for the account to be maintained for their account holders. However, you have to be a Florida resident to have an ABLE account there. Okay. There also could be some asset-based fees based on an investment option that the person might choose. So they are standard-based fees, and if you want to know the specific fee, please check our program disclosure book, which is available on our website. It'll show you the entire portfolio investment structure and what the fees would be for that. Let's take a little look at who can contribute to an ABLE account. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's anybody. Anyone can contribute to the ABLE account. It could be the account owner, him or herself, their family or friends. Their employer can make contributions. This could be unemployment funds, back payments, benefits, Social Security back payments. Oh my goodness, this is such a helpful tool. Sometimes when folks apply for SSI, it can take 9 months to 18 months to start receiving those benefits, and then they will send a back payment, which these back payments can be $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 depending upon how long they're waiting to receive them. So right away you're already over that $2,000 asset limit, right? They will give you a little amount of time. I forget, I think it might be 9 months, don't quote me on that, to spend that money down below the $2,000 limit without you being over-resourced and impacting your benefits. But a great option is to be able to take that back payment, that $8,000, $9,000, put it into your ABLE account. You don't have to worry about that expiration date of when it must be spent down by. And you can still either save it, invest it, or use it right away for anything that you need. So that's a helpful tool for SSI back payments. We've talked about rollovers from college savings plans into ABLE, small inheritances. So great Aunt Elizabeth passes away and unbeknownst to you has left your daughter $5,000 of her life insurance policy. Can't put it in a regular, checking or savings account for her, but you can put that in the ABLE account because it's, below that $18,000 amount. And small settlements, heaven forbid somebody get into a car accident or whatever, and there's a settlement checks can go into the ABLE account as well. So Jeff, let's check in because again, we've talked a little bit about some of the features of savings versus investments. We've talked about some more about contributions and rollovers. So let's see if there's any questions about that.
Indeed, thank you. So let's do a few here. It says my son lost SSDI when he started working full time. He was earning just a little higher than the Social Security cutoff. Working part-time, I found my son too idle in the house. Is there anything I could have done to save his SSDI? He really enjoys working.
Thank you for asking this because it really points out that there's two ways that a person's benefits can be impacted when you're talking about Social Security. The first is that what they consider have too much money. That's how much they have in assets. The second way is because they exceed their earnings threshold. So it sounds like to me, your son exceeded their earnings threshold and he was therefore lost his benefits, right? Because he was making too much money. Unfortunately, ABLE cannot guard against that earnings threshold. We're only an asset protection account. So I know there's work incentives, there's a Ticket to Work, which is a program that enables people with disabilities to be able to work and sort of reduce their countable earnings with different, what they call a pass. That might be something you want to check in to see if that would help to be able to reduce the countable earnings, and so that he could possibly, receive those benefits again. But as far as exceeding earnings threshold, ABLE does not help with that. It only protects the amount of money he's able to have. Now, if he was receiving SSDI, he doesn't have this asset threshold the way folks that are receiving SSI do. Okay, just a real quick, very, layman's terms description of SSI versus SSDI. SSI is Social Security Insurance. And that is for people who would receive this, would be eligible for it, who have not worked and paid into the system, right? Someone that's receiving SSDI, if I were to, get into a car accident this afternoon and have a disability, I would be able to apply for SSDI because I have a work history and I have paid into that Social Security system, right? So sometimes we see children or adult, family members that are receiving SSDI because they are now able to access their parents when they retire or they pass away. They're able to receive SSDI. Okay. All right. Any other questions, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do a couple more if that's all right.
Yeah.
Can the funds in an ABLE account be used to purchase a vehicle for sole use by the account holder for community participation? If so, how should that vehicle be titled upon purchase, assuming the ABLE account holder has a special needs trust?
Okay, so the answer is yes, you can purchase an ABLE account. You can purchase a vehicle for the account owner beneficiary. The titling of it, if the beneficiary is going to be driving it, it would be titled in their name, right? Or if you're talking about a family member or a parent that is going to be driving that person in that adaptive vehicle, then it could be titled in their name if it has if it's a specially designed vehicle to transport that person. So you would need to just check with the people that do the titling, check with your attorney about that to make sure how it's titled, because I don't know the specifics about that, but 100% that is considered a qualified disability expense because it provides transportation for their participation in the community or to their job. So you can not only purchase the vehicle with an ABLE account, you can maintain that vehicle. That's putting new tires on, oil changes, gas in the car. All of that is included under a qualified disability expense.
Okay, let's do one more if that's all right.
Sure.
Has the federal government considered for federal employees who have disabilities, instead of making retirement contributions and matching contributions to the TSP, instead of making TSP contributions, making those contributions to an ABLE account?
I'm not sure that they have considered that, but it is something, again, that ABLE programs nationwide are advocating for. There's a long laundry list of things that we would like to see change. For example, increasing that ABLE account balance of 100,000. One of the examples was making ABLE accounts eligible to people that had an onset after 26. It took us 5 years to have that pass, but it finally did. So one of the things that we're suggesting is that not just federal employees, but employers in general, to be able to have an incentive to make contributions directly into an ABLE account so that it doesn't impact their benefits. So the answer is it's on the radar, and we're going to continue to work towards that. Currently, is it available? No.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks. Okay, so let's take a little look into how we access the money in the ABLE account. It is important to know that an ABLE account is intended to be an online account management. You're never going to drive down the road and see the Bank of Maryland ABLE or the Bank of ABLE or anything like that. You don't even go to your own branch of your own bank to open an ABLE account. Instead, you open it through the website for the program of your choice. And once that is set up, you will link it to an existing bank account. That could be a checking or a savings account. It could be with, a federal bank, a local bank, national bank, savings and loan, any bank that you currently have that is the most useful way for you to be able to electronically transfer money between your existing bank account into the ABLE account. That is how we're going to both get money into the ABLE account and withdraw it when we need it. So for example, when my daughter had her ABLE account established, she was 14. She was not working. She was still in school and she was receiving no benefits. So when we thought about what account made the most sense to link with her ABLE account, it was mom and dad's regular checking account with good old Bank of America, right? We just linked that account. Now, a couple years go by, actually 4 or 5 years went by, and Lily was eligible to receive her SSI, and she has a rep payee account. I was able to add her rep payee account as a linked bank account. So now we have both of those linked, and that is how I'm able to electronically transfer money out of her rep payee account directly into her ABLE account. So when it comes times for contributions, it works the same way. Now, for those of you who may be working with someone who is not comfortable with online banking, they can do things manually by paper forms, paper deposits, and paper withdrawal request. It does go through snail mail. It takes a lot of extra time, obviously, because it's going through the mail, and there is an additional fee to do that because it is not something that the bank normally does when they do the online account management, but it is possible. The other option is the prepaid card option, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. All right, so before we do that though, let's take a look at what the money in the ABLE account can be used for. If you looked at our regulations, you would see that ABLE account funds can be withdrawn for anything that supports a person in their health, their independence, or their quality of life. This is how they define a QDE, qualified disability expense. So it really is important to know whoever is managing that ABLE account, whether it be the account owner, him or herself, or an ALR on their behalf. It really is up to that person to make that determination. Is this money that I'm about to withdraw, is this expense that I'm about to pay for, does it support the account beneficiary in health, independence, or quality of life? Now, when we think about that last category, quality of life, that's a big one. So is independence. So what you're looking at on this slide is a list of categories that the IRS has just listed, just some things to get you thinking. It is not an all-encompassing list, but rather, let's, for example, look at health prevention and wellness. Certainly, everyone's probably thinking, yeah, doctor co-pays and prescriptions, I get that, any medical equipment, okay. But wellness can include a monthly gym membership, therapeutic riding lessons, yoga classes, anything that's going to support the health and wellness, overall wellness of a person with a disability. If you're looking at housing, I did mention that ABLE accounts can be used to pay for rent or mortgage, okay? That is something that is possible. Education, let's just say, oh my goodness, grandma transferred all this money over to from the 529 account into an ABLE account, which now makes it possible for that money that was formerly earmarked only for education expenses is now eligible for anything that they need, including education. So maybe the trajectory changes and they do decide that they're going to go to college maybe 10 years later. That's fine. You can use ABLE funds to pay for tuition, room and board, books. So that's a great thing there too. Transportation, we talked about that vehicle, an adaptive vehicle or a vehicle for the person with a disability themselves to drive. It also includes Ubers and Lyfts, so that's helpful there as well. Planes, trains, all of that. Basic living expenses would be food and clothing, electricity, utility bills. Assistive technology could be computers and screen readers. It could be hearing aid devices. It could also be that monthly cell phone expense and the cell phone itself. So you look at these professional fees like legal fees, tax accountants, if they need somebody to prepare their taxes, all that kind of stuff. that is included in there as well, and those final burial expenses. So lots and lots and lots of ways that people can use it. The only thing that we recommend is that once you have withdrawn money, that you just keep documentation available. You do not have to submit it to Maryland Able with a request to spend the money. You manage the account yourself. But in the event that you're audited, you would want to be able to provide documentation. So it looks different for different ALRs. Some people like to get the prepaid card because it automatically tracks where the expense was, where the money was spent, and there's like a little monthly report. They love that. They can upload receipts if they want. I'm a seasoned woman, let's just say that. So at my age, I'm still a paper girl. So I just have a folder that will say Able account receipts 2024. So in the event of an audit, and by audit, I mean by the IRS, I would be able to just provide to them my Able account folder with receipts in it from 2017, 18, 19, 20, so on and so forth. So that's how I would do that. We do not ever ask you for your receipts. You want to maintain them in the event of an audit. And not because they have an Able account would they be pulled for an audit, but because they just got randomly lucky. So like the gentleman that just was talking about his son having a job, when you have a job, you file taxes. If he were to ever just be pulled for a random audit because he's in the system with millions of other people, they would see that he has an Able account, and they would want to know two things. Number one, does he qualify? Does he have a qualifying disability? Once you would, let them know that, then they'd be satisfied. The next thing they'd want to know is, how is the money being spent in this tax-advantaged savings account that is intended for the use of a person with a disability? That's where those documentation of how the money was spent is helpful. Okay, let's see. Any questions about QDEs before we move on to the next?
Thanks, Kelly. Let's take a brief look here. Can Able now be used to pay for the beneficiary's apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Couple of questions here related to, let's see here, if an Able account is a good option if the person is not very well-versed or responsible as far as spending money. If the beneficiary is not responsible with money or having access to the Able account, can a parent's or guardian's bank account be linked to the Able account?
Yes, whoever is serving as the ALR, they can also link a bank account. So let's just say, like I said, my checking account is linked to my daughter's as well as her rep payee account. So it has to be, the account that's being linked has to be either in the name of either the account holder or the ALR.
Okay, one more related to that. My son has a huge problem with cognitive assessment. I fear if I put too much money in his Able account, he will not be able to manage it in my absence. What is the best saving plan for him?
So certainly a special needs trust would be helpful because they would have a trustee that would be managing that money. But if you have an Able account that you want your son to be able to access the funds, if you serve as the ALR and in your absence someone else is appointed an ALR, there's still a way that he can access the funds, and that's through the prepaid card, where you load funds from the Able account onto the prepaid card, but it doesn't give the person with the card the access to all the funds in the account. So that might be a helpful strategy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the prepaid card section as well.
Okay, and one more. Can you move the funds in a Maryland Able account to an Able account in another state if the owner of the account moves?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a great one. The answer is yes. We see this sometimes with our Maryland Able account holders who are in the military. They will relocate and they may move to California. They have two choices. They can take their Maryland Able account with them if they choose, because we're open for national enrollment. But we always recommend that if you move to another state, check out your state of residence and see if they have an Able program, because sometimes you'll get tax advantages for contributing to money within the ABLE account of your own state. So for example, that income subtraction we get here in Maryland, it would no longer really apply to you because you're not paying Maryland taxes anymore if you move to California. So you can roll that over with no fees or penalties at any time you want to, or keep it because it's attached to your linked bank account and it travels with you wherever you go.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Mm-hmm. All right. So one thing I do want to mention, it wasn't in here, but I get this almost every time. What about a vacation? Can I use an ABLE account to pay for a vacation? And I'm going to put Jeff on the spot because we've been doing this presentation together and partnering for so many years. Jeff, based on the criteria of whether the expense would support a person in their health or independence or their quality of life, can you use ABLE funds to pay for a vacation?
Absolutely, Kelly.
Yep. Very good. You've been paying attention all these years. You know it. So
Yes,
again, that
of
is
course.
supporting a person in their health, their physical, mental, emotional health. People benefit from vacations. Plus, it's a quality of life issue. The difference is you cannot pay for everyone in the entire family to take a vacation off of ABLE funds. It would be for the account owner, him or herself. And maybe if they needed someone to travel with them to make that trip possible, then that would also be a qualified disability expense. All right. So let's take a look at some of the features now that are specific to Maryland ABLE, because all ABLE programs follow the same regulations, but they all get to design their program a little differently. Here in Maryland, we have an online gifting page, which I absolutely cannot recommend enough because it's a great way to help your family member identify a savings goal and to give opportunity to their family and friends to support them in that savings goal. A gifting page comes with all the ABLE, with a Maryland ABLE account. People can choose to activate it if they want to. They don't have to. But once it's activated, they'll be able to provide a link to family and friends that they can send by text, email, or messenger, inviting them to make a gift contribution. This has been such a great thing around the holidays, for special occasions like graduations and birthdays and things like that. So it's a really meaningful gift to that person because they're able to save for things that are important to them. I'm just going to give you a little example in my own life. When my daughter was 14, she said her dream in life was to go to Disney. And she at some point decided that she wanted to do that more than anything. So we decided to launch her gifting page, and around the holidays and her birthday, and especially on graduation, she decided that she would rather have money in her ABLE account towards her Disney trip than she would to have video games or some of the other things that she really enjoys. And that was a choice that she made. Now, I must say, it did take her 3 years of sending these gift page links out and a lot of years, but eventually she was able to save up her money and pay for her own park tickets to Disney, her airfare and all that. So it was such a wonderful thing to see her set that savings goal and reach it. And now she has, of course, achieved that. We went to Disney and she has a new savings goal that we're working towards. She needed a new laptop. So it's nice to give people an opportunity to help out. I also know that in my own journey, when my daughter was born, she was very medically involved. ABLE accounts did not exist, and she was in intensive care for 101 days, and the medical expenses were astronomical. Even when she was out of the hospital, the ongoing monthly medical expenses for oxygen and equipment and specialized medicine, we were paying about $800 in just those expenses. If this would have existed back then, the people that were calling me to check in on her status and seeing how we were doing, and they were saying, what can I do to help you? I would have been able to say, well, if you're interested in helping to pay for some of her oxygen or this special compound mixed medicine that she has to take, here's a link to her gifting page. What an opportunity that would have been. We see it used for things like that. We also see it used for fun things like the Disney trip. We also see people using it that may be Special Olympics athletes and they've made it to the next round of competition. They're going to another state. They're saying, hey, I made it to the next level. Would you like to help me, make the trip out there, spend the night in a hotel? So lots of ways to use it. Out of our 7,000 account holders, I think it is 427 of them have activated their gifting page, and over the last 7 years have received over $2.1 million in gifts. And the best part is anybody that lives in Maryland that uses that gifting page, they are able to use that gift as an income subtraction on their Maryland state taxes. So just a good feature to know about. The prepaid card option is something I talked about accessing the funds in the ABLE account. This is not automatically part of the ABLE account, but it's a feature, so people can select to have a prepaid card, and there's an additional fee of $1.25 a month. For me personally, it was a $15 annual investment that was well worth it. It just streamlined my ability to be able to access those funds, makes it convenient for me and my daughter. I was able to give her the prepaid card so that when she goes out into the community for her different trips that she takes with school, she's able to make her own purchases with the ABLE card. It has really helped her to develop self-confidence and independence. She bought her own school supplies, picked them out, went up to the register, paid for it herself. She was really empowered by that. So lots of good things there. It's also a wonderful financial literacy tool for her because we load funds from her ABLE account onto the prepaid card, and she sees how much money she's been, is on her card, and she has to decide how she's going to spend that money. So it's my, secret way of teaching her budgeting. We don't call it budgeting per se because that's really abstract to her, but we talk about the things that she wants to do or things that she needs for that month, and she has to make choices because she has a set amount of money. So that's been helpful. It is also a great way to upload receipts for easy record keeping. It runs a little report anytime you ask it to say, hey, how much money, where would I spend? Did I spend the money? Was it on, health? Was it on, entertainment? It's a lot of nice things. So something to think about. We also have direct deposit features. If people want to be able to direct deposit funds, SSI or SSDI, into the ABLE account, they can do that, or they can just manually transfer a specific amount of their SSI funds into the account, but direct deposits available for that, as well as payroll contributions from the account owner or ALR. This is not on our slide yet because it just was introduced, a new feature. We have an app for the phone that will enable you to access the ABLE account and manage it right from your mobile device. So that is going to be coming out. So news of that is going to be coming out very soon. We've talked about the Maryland state tax income subtraction. Again, $2,500 per person per ABLE account. Married and filing joint, they can claim a $5,000 income subtraction. So very helpful because I look at families such as myself, when you're raising a child with a disability or you have a family member that you're caring for, you're going to be paying for the things that they need, especially if they're not receiving any kind of benefits, right? So parents do that. We were able to use the ABLE funds to pay for orthodontics. I mean, that's $5,000 in braces. We were going to pay for it anyway. So we put the money into the ABLE account. We received our income subtraction on our Maryland taxes, and we used the money to pay for things like those braces we were paying for anyway. Nice things for families. Okay, here we are at our summary slide here. It's just, I'm not going to go through all of these, but it'll give you a little visual cue of things that maybe you wanted to talk more about or had questions about. So let's pause here, see if there's any questions. And this would be a good little summary here to jog your memory.
Okay, Kelly, let's go through a few questions here. We did have a couple questions about the vacation. So we're at 100%. Every one of our presentations has had that great question. So we'll move on to another one here. Thanks for those questions. Can utilities be paid with an ABLE account?
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know how the Maryland ABLE compares to Virginia ABLE, as this person is a Virginia resident?
So you may want to check on their website and see if they have an income deduction, an income subtraction, so that you could take advantages of the tax, tax benefits there. I think our fees are similar. If I'm not mistaken, I think Virginia may have a minimum account balance. A great way to find out is if you want to visit, and this is good for all of you, the Able Today website, abletoday.com, has a comparison tool of all 47 ABLE programs. So you can take a look at the difference between Virginia's investment strategies. I believe Virginia has a checking account as opposed to a prepaid card. So again, every state has different features, and that abletoday.com is a great way if there's something specific that's really important to you, like, hey, I'm a really financially savvy investor. And that's great, Marilyn, that you got your 4 investment options and you got the cash option, but I need more. Check out Tennessee ABLE. I think they have 12 different investment strategies. So we always say that we want you to be with the ABLE program that best supports your family member. We'd love you to be with Marilyn. We think we have a great program, but if you need something like those more investment strategies, check out some of the other programs on that ABLE Today website.
Okay. Just to reinforce, I think you answered this before, can you have an ABLE account in multiple states?
You can, all the states that have ABLE programs, if they're open for national enrollment, then you can have an ABLE account there, but you can still only ever have one ABLE account per person.
Okay. Does the prepaid card require a user to enter a PIN for store transactions? Not sure my disabled sister could enter a PIN.
I believe when my daughter uses her card, because it's like a debit card, when it asks you for a PIN, she doesn't have to enter it. She just pushes like the next button. So
right,
we don't have her using a PIN. Yeah.
All right. And is there a bill pay feature to pay expenses by check? And is there a fee for bill pay?
So you can set up what we call third-party payments. And you would have to do that just by calling customer service. Like, for example, you wanted to pay rent every month from the ABLE account. You would list the name of the property manager or whatever who's receiving the amount that you want and the date. And I'm not certain. You can check the program disclosure book about that, whether there's a fee to do that. There may, because it's a check, there may be a fee of $2.50 to send a manual check, but it is definitely something you can set up one time and they just keep doing it.
Okay. So question from one of our financial advisor friends, John. I think you're down in Virginia. Hi there, John. If I contribute $18,000 this year to a 529 account, am I still allowed to contribute to an ABLE account, or are they part of the same bucket?
Totally separate. So we do have families that have multiple children and they're contributing to 529 college savings accounts and ABLE accounts. So there's a separate place on the taxes to put how much you contributed to 529 and 529A accounts, which is ABLE.
Okay, and one more. Can you again explain that SSDI is not subject to the $100,000 limit? Just wants to make sure you understand that.
So folks who are receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, and again, these are usually for people who have worked and contributed to that, have a work history or are receiving their parents' work history benefits when they pass away or retire. Those folks do not have an asset of $2,000. They can save as much as they want in an account. Now, the other thing is that people that are receiving SSDI, that are receiving any kind of Medicaid waivers, this is where ABLE accounts can be helpful because they sometimes have asset amounts. So money within that ABLE account is not a countable resource by those Medicaid waivers like housing, food, energy assistance, and things like that.
Okay, I think we're all caught up with questions for now. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation. I have here on this screen our website for those of you who are interested in opening a Maryland ABLE account. Please type the whole URL, www.marylandable.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a button that says Open an Account. You're going to click on it, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to walk through that enrollment process. We stress that we'd like for you to enter the whole URL name because a lot of folks are Googling Maryland ABLE, and what pops up is ABLE Now in Maryland. And people are opening accounts, not realizing that they open an ABLE Now account, which is not in Maryland, it's Virginia. So if you want to be with Virginia, that is super, then definitely do that. But if you want a Maryland ABLE account that entitles you to those income subtractions, you want to make sure you're with Maryland. We have a customer support team available to you Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. at that 800 number there. Please consider visiting our website, signing up for our newsletter. We send out 4 a year, so it keeps you updated on things that are changing, new legislation, and updates to the annual standard contribution limit. Follow us on Facebook. We try to be very active in providing information, not just about the ABLE program, but financial literacy and Social Security benefits and other waivers and things like that. So please consider doing that. I am actually so honored to say that today I am going to be heading down to Washington, D.C. with my daughter, who is going to be participating in the 10th year anniversary of the signing of the ABLE Act on Capitol Hill today. And she has been requested to make a few remarks before an award is being presented. So what an honor for her to be able to stand up there and tell folks that we're part of this legislative passage of this legislation, how important this account is to her and what it has done for her. So here at Maryland ABLE, we're always advocating for positive changes that enhance our program. So we will continue to stay very active in DC, and hopefully we'll have more good news to share in the new year about that sunsetting, not that sunset of the ABLE Act, Able to Work and Financial Planning Act, and college savings rolling over would be made permanent. Hope to have that update for you next time. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Ellie, thank you so much. We had a network disconnection there for about 30 seconds or so, but I think we're back up and running now, and all's looking good. So I think we got the general idea of what you were saying there at the very end. Kelly, I really, as always, just appreciate you as a person and all you do and your commitment to ABLE and working with people and families with loved ones with disabilities. So thank you for everything, as always. I'm going to go ahead and send out the video from today, which will also include the slides as well. I sent a follow-up email if you're new to our webinars with some hopefully good information for everybody that will be helpful. Also, information on our upcoming presentations for our webinar series. We do more than Maryland ABLE presentations. We do a lot more each month. We have tomorrow webinar with Stephen Elville about trustee selection and how to choose the right one for you. So if you've been part of estate planning or done special needs planning, you know that that is one of the most intensive and important pieces of planning, and Steve is going to walk you through every step of that. We take a little bit of a break for the holidays, and we jump back into it on January 8th with the essentials of estate planning and elder law, also with Steve Elville. And then jumping ahead a little bit, what families need to know about planning for a loved one with special needs. That is on February 7th, and we'll touch on Maryland ABLE in that just briefly, but it's a very global discussion by Steve Elville about special needs and supplemental needs trusts, SSI and SSDI, housing, supported decision-making, which is a hot topic, letters of intent, everything related to special needs planning. You will hear about it in that presentation. So hope to see you there. So Kelly, again, thanks very much. Let's see if we have any more questions since we have that little disconnection. Make sure we cover everything here.
Well, while you're checking, Jeff, I want to say thank you so much for having me back. I always look forward to partnering with you on this. And I cannot recommend enough the continuing series that they offer. Just as a family myself, and I refer a lot of families that are looking into futures planning and caring for their loved one. What a resource we have available through this webinar series that Elville and Associates offers. February 7th, you do not want to miss that one. That is going to be a very comprehensive one. They're all fantastic, so can't say enough about it.
Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you, Jeff.
Had somebody say this was the most clear and informative ABLE webinar I've ever watched. So thank you, Sean, for that, and thanks to Kelly for that. One more question we have is a parent's contribution to ABLE reportable to housing choice voucher as income for SSDI? Pretty specific question. Any thoughts?
I'm not sure I really fully understand that. So if the person wants to email it to me and I can better dissect the question, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure. And well, thank you very much for that. So Kelly's always just a wonderful resource in giving of her time. A lot of clients we send her way for questions and to get started with their ABLE accounts. So everybody, thanks for being here today. We'll see you again soon on the Elville webinar series. And if we don't see you till January, hope you have a really happy holiday and a very happy new year. So here's to a great rest of the year in 2025. See y'all soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.